Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and helping us to deliver a message to our New Hampshire delegation that we're sick and tired of their non-action. We're sick and tired of this impeachment fraud. This Pappas, who represents a congressional district in which the president won in 2016, came to Washington pledging to work with President Trump on the issues that matter most to the New Hampshire people and to the American people. Pappas has broken that promise to work with Republicans and President Trump. The far left-wing party has too much of a voice here in New Hampshire. New Hampshire voters will remember his broken promises when they head to the polls in 2020.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Yeah. Chris Pappas, Ann Custer, Jean Shaheen, Maggie Hassan all promised to reach across the aisle and work with President Trump and Republicans to serve the American people, but instead are now pushing their hyper-partisan agenda, assisted by their media lapdogs. Enough is enough. New Hampshire voters are sick and tired of these perpetual witch hunts. Instead of concentrating on issues like passing USMCA, securing the border, lowering health care costs, lowering pharmaceutical costs, they continue to vote with the radical left attacking President Trump with fruitless fishing expeditions at taxpayers' expense. We are going to hold the New Hampshire delegation accountable for their ridiculous charade and remind voters that their radical left Democratic representatives have turned their backs on us.
Yes!
The one person keeping promises to the American people is President Donald J. Trump.
Yay!
And I just want to introduce somebody, our featured speaker, who doesn't need much of an introduction here in the state of New Hampshire. Cory Ellison serves as senior advisor to Vice President Pence's Great America Committee. Prior to this role, Cory was both chief political advisor to and campaign manager to Donald J. Trump. In those roles, he oversaw all aspects of the historic 2016 presidential campaign, where Donald J. Trump won in 38 primaries and caucuses, and received more votes than any other presidential candidate in the history of the Republican Party. Through Cory's leadership, candidate Trump secured the Republican nomination for President of the United States. And I might as well add, only spending a fraction of the money his competitors spent over the same period of time. Cory directed a skillfully disruptive political campaign and is a visionary on understanding the moods, pulse, and priorities of the American people. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend and a friend to everyone in New Hampshire and across the country, Mr. Cory Ellison.
Thank you, everybody. You know, it's such a pleasure to be back here in New Hampshire where I live with my wife and our kids. And my wife is here and my 8-year-old boy Reagan, named after the second greatest president of our country, is here with us. You know, I want to say, as I travel the country and I talk to people, I hear the same message all the time. One message they ask me to relay to the president: keep fighting for us. Because what we've seen in Washington is the worst of the worst. It's a hyper-partisan environment that now they want to bring an impeachment against this president for doing nothing but putting America first. And if that's a crime, guilty as charged.
Hoorah!
You know, here in New Hampshire, it wasn't that long ago, we had 2 Republican congressmen, 2 Republican U.S. senators. We had the State House, both branches. We had the Executive Council, and we had the governor. But guess what? Times have changed. And look at who our members of Congress are now. We stand here in the 1st Congressional District with Congressman Pappas, who votes more with AOC than he does the people of the state of New Hampshire. We stand in front of Jean Shaheen's office, who's gotten rich. She's gotten rich while serving the people of New Hampshire in office. She's not passed one signature piece of legislation in 12 years in the U.S. Senate, and she continues to vote to fund sanctuary cities so people in this country here illegally can have refuge. Those are not the New Hampshire values that we need in Washington, D.C.
No way.
It's time we bring our New Hampshire values to Washington and not Washington, D.C. values to New Hampshire. Yeah. And look as we stand outside this building. No trespassing signs were just erected so that we don't go in and see Jean Shaheen and relay our concerns. That's not what a representative of the people are supposed to be doing. This should be the opportunity for everybody to come and air your grievances, to be a senator for everybody. Not just the Chuck Schumer wing, Nancy Pelosi wing of the Democratic Party, but that's what we are. And so I ask you, and I encourage you and I demand, that just like in 2016, when you all joined with me and Donald Trump to send a message to Washington, we have to double our effort to send the new message to Washington in 2020. That message is, we're not going to take it anymore. The message is, you can't impeach and overturn their election results with 63 million people want to send change to Washington, D.C. because you don't like the way he delivers a message.
Right.
You cannot allow elected officials to subvert the will of the American people. Because the far left wing of the Democratic Party, with AOC and Rashid Tlaib, they now run the Democratic Party. When Nancy Pelosi is the moderate, that should scare the hell out of the people in New Hampshire. It's time to make sure Chris Pappas is returned to his job here in Manchester.
And Mommy's Restaurant.
It's time to return Annie Custer back to New Hampshire. It's time to make sure Jean Shaheen is held accountable for her inability to deliver for the people of New Hampshire and Washington, D.C., and send her back home.
Hell yeah.
And most importantly, for the direction of our country, for our children and our grandchildren, we have to do one thing. Send Donald Trump back to the White House. This is an amazing turnout with such short notice. And the media's here, so let's hope they're going to be good to us, right? I doubt it, but we can try.
Yeah, we're loud and proud, baby.
You have to fight every day for what you believe in, and I do it on television, and I do it at home, but more importantly, I do it for my family. And I do it for every veteran who served this country, and all those who continue to serve.
Hoorah!
And I know that today, when you look at the economic prosperity this president's delivered, we are better economically than we were 3 years ago. We are better militarily than we were 3 years ago. And we will be better when we seal our southern border so illegals no longer pour into this country. Thank you all very much for coming. It's such a great honor and a privilege to be here with you today. Go back to your communities. Go back and fight for what you believe in. And go back and make sure Donald Trump is re-elected President of the United States.
It's about these guys, and we're going to continue to have that conversation as a family, but I'll tell you what, if I get in this race, there's only one goal, to send Jean Shaheen back to New Hampshire because she's failed in Washington. If I run, I'm going to win this U.S. Senate race. New Hampshire deserves a U.S. Senator who supports everybody, not just the far left of the Democratic Party. Look, my timetable is, as our family looks at this, understanding what the other candidates are in this race, and looking at the political time and how the Democrats are going to overreach to impeach this president for crimes that were never committed. And what that backlash is going to be in New Hampshire. Donald Trump is going to win in New Hampshire in 2020. And that means if I'm the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate, I'll be the next senator from New Hampshire.
I second that.
Look, I don't know what he did that was illegal. He had a conversation, right, with a foreign leader, and the job of the president is to make sure no one's meddling in our elections. What we have to do is hold the Biden family accountable for the wealth that they have achieved by doing business in the Ukraine. No one wants to talk about it. Joe Biden is on TV saying, if this person isn't fired, we're going to hold $1 billion. That's not a quid pro quo, and I've never heard of one in my life. He's the Vice President of the United States. Let's have an investigation.
Cory, we want to know about the $60K Jean Shaheen
Oh, I
got.
never real private conversations, honey. Thank you.
What about if you needed to be
She got $60,000 from Burisma.
I'm a surrogate every day for the president on television to the best of my ability. I think I'll be on Lou Dobbs tonight, so maybe you'll watch me there.
Cory, when will we know? Cory, when will we know? And will you do both jobs?
Look, I am ready to go, but I've got a young family. Don't forget, this is the last primary in the country. The New Hampshire primary is not until next September. It's 11 months away from right now. We've got all kinds of time. The filing deadline is next June, so I don't feel any amount of pressure to have to make a decision about getting into a Senate race, which is 11 months away.
Come on, Cory, run.
Cory, stop
I hope
teasing
not.
us.
Come on.
Hey, enough with the teasing.
Enough already.
I just saw Bill. I haven't seen him. Look, Bill and I have a relationship. I've known him a long time. I value the work he's done on behalf of the conservatives in the state of New Hampshire. He's been a strong speaker of the House. And look, Bill's a friend, and I know him really well.
How would you describe your relationship with the president now?
The best.